I'm really lucky to be here after 4 different perspectives on inclusive education. I think the whole session is turning out to be very interesting, and looking at inclusive education in different perspectives, and which definitely lends meaning to every word that is being said in this session, and very purpose of including this title or theme as a session for discussion. Please excuse me, I'm not very formal. I tend to get into conversation, and my presentation is also more for you to think, reflect as per your own context, your own school situation, and try and see what we can do. I would also like to bring through my slides or my thoughts the perspective of E to the entire issue of inclusive education, because I think digital world has brought us all together, and that e-health, e-education and e-testing, e-inclusive education. So let us try and see how technology can really get associated with our understanding of inclusive education. I'll try and limit myself to your theme that you have given to us, creating learning environment or creating inclusive education environment in classrooms. So how can we do it? First of all, this my title slide shows my understanding of inclusive education, and I say, leave no child behind is perhaps the mandate that is passed on to us by NCF, the National Curriculum Framework 2000, which says that civil society should intervene to ensure that the inclusive education happens. And I also want to relate it to something that was said in the morning by Honorable Minister. I think he made a very, very important statement, and I thought it got linked to our session, this session of inclusive education. He said, Jansankhya hamare liye boj nahi hai. The population is not a burden to us if we can turn it into resource. But obviously, if we have exclusions from the population, they would not remain as much a resource as we think them to be. So it's in that context also, it's important that we have inclusive education really implemented well in our classrooms. I have some pictures, and as you look at those pictures, try and see very specifically how technology can help achieve that kind of situation. And these are the pictures which in some form or the other explain, depict inclusive education. I say inclusion is when students working on goals that are meaningful to their lives. And it's not a student, it is a group of students when they're working together, what we heard in the last session, on their goals, on their learning outcomes. So perhaps that's inclusion. And there is a feeling, and all of us have felt it and said it in many ways. My worthy speakers before me have also said it. We can all learn from each other. That's also inclusion, I thought. Some of the pictures are not from India. These are, so that means people think about inclusion everywhere in the world, something like this. People don't have to be the same to do things together. So if it is a child who has, if there's a child who is physically challenged, if there's a child who is mentally special, if there's a child, a girl or a boy, a girl from rural or the urban setting, economic backgrounds, whatever be the variations, but they don't have to be the same to do things together. They can still carry on doing things together, I thought. It is something to embrace the differences. Again, technology perhaps can help us understand how differences can be embraced. I think the first speaker in this session said that it's very challenging for the teacher to try and see how he or she has to cater to different sets of students in the classroom. But can technology help in some way so as to help the teacher to ensure inclusion in the classroom? Inclusion is also working together, and it's not only working together by the children, but also by the staff. So if they collaborate, if they do some sharing, I think whatever is happening in one school and has been successful, that may be tried by another teacher in another school. So it has so much to share and so much to collaborate on. They said we couldn't do this alone. Even the integration of schools with the higher education systems, what they want to expect at the point where we close, I think if there is an understanding between schools and higher education, then only inclusion can be achieved. If there's a communication of a student going up from school into a higher education course, and there's a communication what this child has achieved during his 12 years, despite the challenge he or she had, I think those universities should acknowledge that. If they have just to follow those grade systems which are written, then there is definitely a problem. And of course, community, I think it has been said, must come together. Inclusion is also having friends amongst the student community, because no skill could make life of a child who is different, who is special, as rewarding as to have a good friend who was sharing, who was understanding, and helped him to develop the life skills. Inclusion is this, when they are happy together. And can we really achieve it? I thought there were just 4 principles of effective inclusion which can help us create effective learning environment whilst allowing inclusion. I thought if my teacher, if my management, if my policy maker understands diversity and values it and uses it appropriately, a child who is very good in science and another child who is very good in arts, I think Michael gave that example in the last session. If 2 can really come together and share their skills, it would be beneficial learning for both of them. We can achieve inclusion if we acknowledge diversity. We have to understand that every child is unique and he has unique needs. He is unique because of his multiple intelligence. He is unique because of his gender. He is unique because of his socio-economic background. They bring different experiences to the class. If that can be utilized to our advantage, we can definitely achieve effective inclusion. Reflective practices by the teachers, by the parents, by the policy makers can help us achieve that effective inclusion that we are looking at. And of course, we talked about it, the collaboration, which is the key. No teacher alone, no institution alone can achieve what they can achieve as a group. If CBSE has formed Sahodya's concept of Sahodyas, the very purpose at the basis of that is collaboration between schools. The clusters should come together and form those assessments together, do activities together. They should share best practices amongst each other. That is the key, and I think more globalized we are becoming, it is very important for us to understand that collaboration is the key. I thought for achieving all that, this 3-dimensional adaptation needs to be done. One in curriculum, of course, a child who is at this level of achievement in a particular subject, even if, for example, if you take a subject of evolution, evolution can be dealt at a developmental continuum where lowest level and the highest level has a gap. Some students would be at the lowest level, some at the middle, some at the top, and some beyond that also in the class. So curriculum needs to adapt to that. Our instructional behavior, the teacher's plan needs to be different. I know it is challenging. Teachers sitting here would say, where do we have time to do that? We have 40 students to deal with. But never mind, if you are teacher, then you are teacher. And if you are catering to those 40 students, let us remember that one child in the class, every one child in the class is precious to the family he comes from. So that is very important for us to give to that every child that we can give and that he can receive. It is very important. And of course, we need to adapt the ecological system, the ecosystem in the class. It is very important, the setting, where, when, and with whom that collaboration, that understanding, that delivery has to happen. All these are important things to ponder over when we are thinking of effective inclusion, I thought. So how? I have just 2-3 slides on this, and very quick, there will be some overlap also. But it's very important that 3 different agencies are operating here. One is the government system, that is the policy makers. I just clubbed them into government system. Then is the school level, the school managements following those policies, and the classroom level, which is the level of the teachers. So let us see what we can do at those levels. I have some suggestions, but I'm sure you would have many more, and you must be practicing many more. How you can really take one of these from here back to your school and may use it to your advantage, or maybe add to my list through your questions later, or maybe at tea time if we get some time together. I would definitely want to hear from you to let my list grow up of the suggestions that I have tried to make. So for the government, I thought government should support parent involvement at all levels. So when they are thinking of curriculum, when they are thinking of assessment, there should be some policy where parents necessarily get involved with the school system during the delivery. It's dangerous, I know. As a principal, I would always fear that I don't know what the parent is going to bring to the school. When he or she comes, they mostly have complaints to make than to make any constructive suggestion. But nevertheless, they are very important vertex of the triangle. So we can't really ignore them, especially in context of inclusive education. Parents are very important. There should be some policy that government must state and pass on to the schools. Of course, I said partnerships with universities, environmental accommodation. There is a mandate with the schools that when you are building the school, when you are making the building of the school, ramps are a must. Now that is an environmental accommodation. Some of us think it's a costly affair, keep it for the second phase. But what will you do with those who are coming in the phase 1? Response and testing adaptations are very important. So there should be some leeway available with the school managements to assess and promote those students who do not achieve a particular level of achievement, but still they have progressed on the developmental continuum because they are special children. So there has to be some policy that schools can't do. It's the government which has to lay policy on that. And of course, there should be something about the staff development. Coming to the schools, the principals sitting here, I think they would be able to relate themselves very well to this, that a clear vision for the school for all students. There has to be a separate vision of every school towards inclusive education. If there's a mandate for them, a vision and a mission, I'm sure things will happen. There should be time given to the teachers, teachers and students, teachers of course here, for collaborative planning and problem solving. If teachers are given all the 7 periods out of 9 periods, they don't get time to collaborate, they don't get time to sit down and plan. So it has to be an essential part of the timetable management. There should be clear roles and responsibilities that principals must assign to all in the school, so that every child is taken care of. There should be curriculum and instructional adaptation and modifications, environmental accommodations, because if there's a mandate from government, but schools ignore it, then the things would come to the square one. It is important that it should be understood. And professional staff development focused on research-based activity. I think it was very ably said by one of the earlier speakers, that classroom research is an essential component to make inclusive education possible. If teachers are not thinking, then they become machines, then they are doing the routine things mechanically. That will not account for inclusive education at all, I thought. And a welcoming environment for parent involvement. It is very important for principals, for school managements to welcome parents, community into the school. Let's not be scared. Let's not be threatened. If they have suggestions to make, let's build a spirit of tolerance between parents, teachers, and the school managements. Then only we will be able to see inclusive education happening. For the teachers, I thought, collaboration with parents, teachers, and other specialists who come. Sometimes one has seen that if school has engaged a special teacher, there are opportunities when regular teacher and these special teachers don't see eye to eye with each other, and there are clashes. So the whole purpose gets defeated. So there has to be an environment where there is a coordination and understanding between all those who are contributing to inclusive education. Cooperative learning and peer support. It is very important for teachers to understand that frontal teaching days are gone. Inclusive education cannot be imparted in this kind of a mode when only I am talking and all of you have been listening for last, I think, 6-7 hours. It's not possible in the classroom scenario anyways. And nevertheless, it's not possible with the, when we are thinking of inclusive education. So we need to have differentiated instructions. Our teachers need to have differentiated instructions, specially designed instruction for multiple intelligences, friendship facilitation and positive behavioral support. I'm sure many schools are doing that. Now there was an example of having science night. Now science night will not only achieve the science subject development, it would definitely promote friendships. It would definitely give them time beyond the classroom scenario, an informal time to bond. And when there is bonding, there is inclusion. Multi-age grouping, obviously in inclusive education, there will be a student of 11 years who is special and a student of 8 years in the same class. So teacher really needs to has to plan how to do the grouping and how to manage that and how to achieve the best result to disadvantage of none. Otherwise, majority of the students' parents would come complaining. Teacher pays attention to just these 2 children who are special, but whole of the class keeps waiting when she is attending to them. So there has to be a strategy in place how that inclusive education can be done to the advantage of everyone. Project-based learning, advanced planning and creative problem solving. It's part of CBSE now, problem solving. Use it for inclusive education and again welcoming environment for parent involvement. Now this is my last slide again, and I would want to say, sink or swim, you can make it. You can make it happen. If the child sinks, take the responsibility that there is onus on you as well, on us as well, the educationists as well. And if the child can swim and is happy, that happy quotient I read somewhere, if that can be achieved, now these are certain strategies that we can use. And certain accommodations and supports which are possible, I listed 3 of them. I thought assistive technology, I wrote on top of it. If it is there, use it. This is the world of technology. Let us use it to the advantage of inclusive education. But how? All of us will have to decipher. All these people who are making presentation, including Mosaic, I think they have solutions for inclusive education, because children can move at their own pace without disturbing the pace of the teacher, and not to the disadvantage of gifted children. A slow child can also be addressed. He can be allowed to move at his own pace. Personal assistance, instructional modifications. This is because I say inclusive education is best practices in education for all learners. But it is not a special education in a place. Inclusive education is not a place. Inclusive education can be achieved by supports and services brought to students through an individual education program. Thank you very much.